Hello, everyone. Welcome to VizConnect, connecting you with the art of data visualization and storytelling. My name is Sagar Kapoor, part of customer success team at Tableau, and welcome to VizConnect session. So today we have a special guest, and she's a Tableau featured public author. She's also part of Viz of Social Good, and today she will go ahead and talk about adding research to storytelling VizZes. So welcome, Nicole Klassen. And just to introduce Nicole, she is a senior data analyst with a passion for using data visualization to help others, creating dashboards around important topics, or participating for Viz for Social Good. She has used Tableau for 6.5 years and joined Tableau community in Feb 2021. She studied psychology, and prior to becoming a data analyst, she worked in a wide range of areas, including human resources, program evaluation, and psychometrics. Outside of visiting, she enjoys spending time with her husband and son, rock climbing, reading, and music. So, without further ado, I will hand it over to Nicole to talk about how you can go ahead and add research to your storytelling business. Nicole, over to you.
Thank you so much. All right. There we go. Let me do my share screen. All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me for this. One of the reasons that I wanted to kind of do this presentation was because I've had a lot of people kind of reach out privately and ask me what my process is for creating these storytelling dashboards. And I'll say that my process is definitely influenced by my background. And for me, I tend to focus my Tableau public work on these storytelling, long form dashboards that kind of answer more of like a research thesis question, which is why I'm lucky to get one dashboard a month out there. But that's just my process and how I do it. And I would love to share that process with others so that they can incorporate it into their dashboards as much as they want.
Nicole, sorry to interrupt you. We can see, yeah, and now it's perfect.
Now you can see it?
Yeah, we were seeing your notes before, but now it's perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So to start off, as I mentioned, my background is in psychology. I got my bachelor's in psychology, worked for a few years in human resources, then went back and got my master's in psychology. It was supposed to be a doctorate in psychology, but myself and my professors all agreed that I should never be anybody's therapist. But for me, what I really loved about that program was not the clinical psychology side, but more the research side. And that's where my roots of my career and my Tableau public work are really founded is in that social science research. So after my master's, I did program evaluation for about a year. I had co-founded an evaluation firm with one of my cohort mates, and our focus for that project was working with kids who were considered at risk, so from very low income homes, different things like that, and who were displaying signs of depression and anxiety. And we actually worked with them. They were participating in a circus course to kind of see if some of these concepts of circus could help alleviate their symptoms of depression and anxiety. And it did, which was great. But a year after we started, that project wrapped up. My partner had to step back. And so I went and I thought I was taking a job in social science research. Title was research associate, talked about program evaluation, but it was actually an analytics job, which I didn't realize. But I'm so glad I did that because that's gotten me into this career that I absolutely love. And I can bring in that research background into data analytics and combine the two. So I had been using Tableau for 5 years before I got started in Tableau Public, and I got started through ATUG. I had been attending ATUG for a while, and then they did this Iron Viz Atlanta. And so when they announced that, that's when I started really doing like Tableau Public Vizzes that weren't just portfolio pieces for when I want to apply for a job. And so my friend and I, Juana, did the Tally Parton Viz for the Iron Viz ATL. And at the same time I was doing that, I also did this Broadway dashboard. And that's when I really realized like I do love building these dashboards, and it's fun to build them outside of work. So since then, I've really gotten involved in Viz for Social Good and kind of just creating dashboards and participating in projects that do have that social impact focus. So Viz for climate action, or just doing personal ones that mean something to me, but also bring a focus like to climate change, how it disproportionately affects women in low income countries, mental health, anything like that. So what is my process? This is the question that I've been kind of getting as I build these longer form storytelling dashboards. Is for me, I always start with a question. So it can be something fun, like how many episodes of Doctor Who are there? Or it can be something a little bit more on that research serious side, does climate change disproportionately affect women and low income countries? Or with Viz for Social Good, helping communicate the impact that these nonprofits have, such as TUI, in their local communities. So TUI was in Dar es Salaam. For me, it's less about starting with a very specific data set and more starting with this question and then finding the data that I need to answer it. So why do I do that? Why do I go about it this way? It's because I come at them as a visual lit review. And a lit review is, discusses published information in a particular subject area, sometimes within a certain period of time. And it's just the start of how all these research papers go. And it tells you the so what, like why should someone read your journal article? Why should somebody care? So you start with, finding all the relevant literature. You make sure that they're coming from sources that are reputable, identify these themes, gaps, outline the structure. And then for a lit review, you tend to write it. For a dashboard, then you would make the dashboard out of it. And so for me, it's all about adding in context. So the first social Viz for Social Good dashboard I did was Sunny Street, and they're this mobile health outreach service, and they help provide health services for those experiencing homelessness and vulnerability across Australia. For me, knowing their mission, I can already tell like this is a great organization doing a ton of great work. But I've worked with nonprofits before, and the biggest thing that they need is their data shown in a way, and then also data that provides context as to why what they're doing is solving a bigger problem. Because these grant funders and foundations, they not only want to know what the nonprofit is doing, but they want to know why what they're doing is important. So that's why for all my Viz for Social Good, I'll bring in this outside research context. So for Sunny Street, it was, okay, they're helping people who are homeless and vulnerable, so at or below the poverty line. How many people is that? And that's a lot of people. I do not know why I keep switching between the notes and the PowerPoint. I apologize. Because it's just one screen. So when do I use them? I use it all the time. So again, like Doctor Who even just had some stats on like the awards that they won and such. This one is from Build Up Nepal. And so for this one, Build Up Nepal, they provided the data set and they wanted to show, the impact that their work has had. A lot of what they focus on is creating jobs in Nepal in these local communities and helping people become entrepreneurs and kind of keep it in their communities. So for me, I wanted to know that's great. Personally, like I can tell that's great, but why? Why is that something that this entire nonprofit needed to be founded on? So I went and I looked up some statistics on Nepal's employment and found that the majority of employment in Nepal is unpaid. Most new jobs are temporary. And a lot of people actually end up, because of this, a lot of people go abroad. And it tends to be men who go abroad because women don't have that opportunity. They have to stay with the homes, with the kids. They can't leave as easily as the men do. And so, I have the data that Build Up Nepal provided. I can see that they created 4,000 construction jobs and 2,000 production jobs. But why is that important? It's important because the majority of these people are either in unpaid work or leaving and going abroad. And that's a huge impact that Nepal is having. And that's why, I can bring in that research to add in that context to the story. This is from Women in Business and How That Affects Climate Change. And for that one, that whole viz started with reading journal articles about just, again, this impact, the disproportionate impact of climate change on women, but also how the women in business have that mindset to help work towards a solution, make their businesses kind of climate friendly, kind of promote that. And so it started with a journal article. There wasn't a data set to dig into. So the entire viz is random data sources where I read these journal articles and then I copy the percentages from these different journal articles, and I'll show you where I find them in a minute. And I copy them into Excel, or I copy them into text boxes. There was some data in here from World Bank, so it had some larger data sources, but a lot of the story for this was in different journal articles that I had to bring together into a viz itself. So for me, I find them through Google Scholar. So that is Google search engine for journal articles, research journal articles. And I would say it's pretty good. It's probably about 60%, 70% of the articles that I want to read that I find on Google Scholar are open access, which is great. It is great to see this field of academic research becoming more open access. A website that I was just told about recently, and I can't believe I didn't know this one before, is Google Datasets. And Google, just like Google Scholar is for searching academic journals, Google Datasets is for just searching public datasets. I'm trying to, you type in a topic and it'll pull up all the public datasets around that topic. And it's really cool. And I've been having fun going down that rabbit hole. But another big place to find these kind of research on the articles that you want to add are federal agencies and NGOs. So anything climate change, I tend to go to the United Nations Climate Change, and they have PDF after PDF after PDF of all these articles on the research that they've done. And also, various nonprofits tend to put out the research as well. And it's because of, as I said before, these, agencies and nonprofits need to show that they're addressing a big problem. And so they're a great place to find research around the problem that they're trying to solve. So how do I bring in this research? So, I've started with my question. I read so many journal articles around the question, probably 20 to 30 journal articles around the question to create the outline that I want and pull the data I want, whether it's a larger data set such as World Bank or pulling it out of the journal articles. For something fun like Doctor Who, I just bring it in as a band because I'm like, all right, I got a great data set on the episodes of Doctor Who. It's not research, it's not a social impact topic. I just want people to know why they should care about it. They should care about Doctor Who because it's had 400 nominations and it's been on for almost 60 years. It's kind of a big show. If you're bringing it in for something like the climate change, you get to create your own Excel files, which kind of suck, but it has a good output. So for me, it's worth the time to do it. And that means structuring your data set in a way that Tableau will be able to ingest it. And, just having enough filters and stuff that you can kind of bring this in to show trends that you need. And the outcome for it, so these are the sources that I actually used in the climate finance dashboard, which is 15 sources. I read more than that. So it's not something that is necessarily quick, but it produces a good story that people will listen to. So why do I take the time to do this? Because again, it takes me forever to do these. That's why I'm good. If I get one a month, I'm pretty good. But I do it because I want to engage the reader and provide context for why the reader should care about what I'm doing. I'm not necessarily doing the crazy, beautiful charts, but I'm telling a story that I think people should care about. And one thing that I have found is academic researchers are great at doing the research, writing the journal articles, getting the information out there to those in their discipline. But they don't necessarily bridge that gap between like their discipline and their world and people who are outside of that. And so that's what I try to do is use this data viz as a way to bridge that gap and take something like mental health that not only have I experienced, but I've spent years studying and put it in terms that anybody can understand and start to care about and start to think like maybe I can do something small to help. And that's why I've always put a call to action at the bottom, like just something you can do. I do it in all my bids for social good, and it is something that every nonprofit has brought up when I present to them is something they really appreciate is bringing in that context outside of their data because then they can use it to tell this story for funding, for grants, for anything like that. And it helps them just go one step further. Like, this is what we're doing, and bringing it in helps them tell why what they're doing is important. And again, it's something that they've all said they really appreciate. So I keep doing it. And then also design inspiration because, designing a viz, while it's not necessarily the core of what we're doing, we're trying to get the information across. The design is what's going to help people really attract to it. They're going to see the design and they're going to say, oh, I want to keep reading this and go. So for the example, the women in business one, as I was doing this research and reading a million articles about it, I found out that a woman co-funded Captain Planet, created Captain Planet TV series, and she is super involved still in environmental impact, helping to prevent climate change, things like that. And also that not only was there a TV series, but there was a comic book series. So it's like I can bring this design of a comic book based off of the theme of Captain Planet to the dashboard to just completely immerse the reader in the story. They're getting something that's eye grabbing, but it's also bringing them in to the story of the comic books of these women who are doing amazing work on the climate change front, and then learn more about it that way. So that's why I do it. That was really fast. I talk fast. I apologize. And that's how I go about doing it. And I would love to answer any questions people have.
Hey, thanks, Nicole. If you have any questions for Nicole, just go ahead and put in the chat. Happy to ask her. I think, Nicole, I have one question for you, right? What has been the impact of Tableau community on you in terms of going ahead, started using Tableau, and what are some of the ways you will advise people who have just joined community, right, who wants to join, how they can go ahead and improve their craft of data visualization and storytelling?
The community has had a huge impact on me. From the start, I saw these beautiful VIZZES before. I've seen, the Firebird Suite, Valence on Broadway. I felt very intimidated by that, but I also felt intimidated by like, is anyone gonna care what I have to talk about? Like, is anyone going to care about Broadway or is anyone going to care about Doctor Who? So I was very like timid, and I joined the community, but I didn't really post VIZZES for a while. And the community just is a great place for inspiration. So I follow a lot of people on Twitter and I see just these amazing dashboards, and they help inspire me in terms of my design and in terms of ways to visualize. But they also, the people there are amazing, and they just helped me become comfortable sharing what I want. So, for example, with the Doctor Who viz, I'd been sitting on that for a while because I was like, who really cares about Doctor Who? And I had a brain date during the last Tableau conference with Adam Miko, and he was like, just do it. Like, you know what? Maybe I've never seen an episode, but I want to see what you are interested in. And that is what kind of really got me going into things like the mental health VIZZES and the ones that aren't part of community projects, because it gave me the confidence to share stories that I found important and to really just share it because I want to share it and not worry about if it was going to be accepted or not. So beyond the skills, which is the community has helped me improve my skills exponentially, but also the confidence to do what I want to do and share these stories and get it out there for people.
Thank you, Nicole, for that. One more question I had, like, how much time do you like? Just an example, you mentioned about Doctor Who over here. How much time do you spend in terms of going ahead and researching about that particular subject and then creating a wish about it, right?
Something that's more fun, like the Doctor Who one, is probably 10 hours at most, 5 to 10 hours. But that's because the data was there. I found a great data on Kaggle, so I didn't have to clean it or anything. Uh, and I already knew enough about it that I kind of had a design in mind. But something like the climate finance one, uh, at least 60 hours of just reading and reading and reading.
Wow.
Um, the Tableau part can be quick. Finding the data and
Yep.
the reading, that takes forever.
Oh, I think 60 hours is great, right? Going ahead, understanding the subject, and then creating something about it. Yep.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of time. And I want to make sure that that's, it's not just me doing things quickly. Like it takes a lot of time. So don't be intimidated.
And what about the work visits, right? I think that's your passion in terms of finding a really impacting subject and spending so much time and creating a visit, right? How
Mm-hmm.
do you translate the same passion when you get something in your work, right? What's the process for there?
Um, it's definitely different. I I don't do work visits on my Tableau Public just because I do them all day at work, and I am so grateful that everyone who does business dashboards, because they give me so much inspiration. But that's one of the reasons I don't do them on my Tableau Public, because I do them all day. And there is ways to bring it into a business setting. So benchmarking is how I bring the research into my dashboards. So for example, when I worked in higher ed, there is a public data set called IPEDS that I do not remember what it stands for, but every university has to submit their data to it. So when I'm creating internal, enrollment dashboards, I can benchmark the percent of, female students that we have to other universities by bringing that data in. Um, Working in human resources, it's been a little bit harder to find the benchmarking data, but it's still out there. You can kind of see, for example, um, that's what I just did, like where your applicants are coming from. There are articles out there that say, a lot of applicants come from this source or this source or this source, and you can kind of benchmark it. So that's how I bring it into the work ones. They definitely are more that exploratory. You have the data, you want to find the trends, but benchmarking is a great way to kind of put it in context as well.
Thank you, Nicole. Just a last shout out. If anyone has any question for Nicole, just go ahead and put it in the chat. Happy to ask her. So I think, Nicole, we don't have any questions from the audience on the chat. Any last thoughts from you, Nicole? Anything you want to go ahead and talk about?
No, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. It's been great to kind of share this, and hopefully, it's helped somebody. My DMs and LinkedIn is always open if anyone has any questions outside of this.
With that, thanks a lot, Nicole. It was an honor to have you on VizConnect. And thank you for inspiring us and keep sharing some great visualization and learning with the data fam.
Thank you.
With that, thanks a lot, everyone, for joining the session. Take care, be safe, and we'll